Oh, my connection is so slow. Okay, there we are. We are live. Okay, guys, today I am super, super excited because John and I were out at Walmart, and we were looking at what you look at Walmart, and this cute little girl comes up to me. She's like, "Are you Dirtpatcheaven?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I don't get a whole lot of recognition because, I mean, you know, we live in Idaho. It's not like our population is that high, and our cities are far between. And so, you know, so it's always excited when a fan recognizes me. And we did a little video as an intro to say, like, hey guys, go check out her channel. But later we realized that the video that we took was in the underwear aisle, the feminine lingerie aisle right in front of the panties. And so it just felt a little bit silly that that's where we were standing. So we decided to take a real video instead as an introduction to her channel, something a little more professional, a little less silly. And so take it away and introduce yourself. Go for it.
Okay, I'm Clarissa, and I just started in the making homestead. So we're still living right in the middle of the city in a rental, working towards getting our own property to be able to homestead. So I've been learning as I go, you know, canning, gardening, you know, all that stuff, herbal remedies for things. I have 7 kids, which is a lot to handle, and I homeschool. I grew up kind of on a farm. We had cows, chickens, pigs, things like that. Pretty boy. So this whole process is kind of new to him and exciting for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's us.
Well, and I think this is super exciting because we're going to talk today about a topic that we've kind of skimmed a little bit here and there in my channel, but we haven't sat down and done a real in-depth examination. A few weeks ago, we had somebody that showed up at our house to buy the solar refrigerator, the refrigerator that runs off solar panels. And while they were here, they started to talk about like their mission, and their mission is that they really wanted to have some mobile birthing center units so that if there was ever a big emergency and hospitals were down or you couldn't get to a hospital, that there would be some kind of triage type unit that could go in and help women who were giving birth. But they also do education. They want to do like a rough and ready midwifery course, so, especially in churches here in our area, wanting to teach women how to help and assist in childbirth. And oddly enough, Clarissa is taking her midwifery. She's a student in this amazing skill. And so I felt like that really, really tied in well. So we're both going to talk about our own experiences with having babies with the midwife at home. And we're just gonna kind of play it by ear. So Clarissa, do you want to go ahead and talk about your experiences? You've had more babies than me, and maybe, you know, not maybe, so you have more experience with birth than I do, and you've done it both ways. And so do you want to talk about whatever you want to start with?
My births, okay. So I had my first 3 were hospital births, just your run-of-the-mill, anything you expect in a hospital. And so when I got pregnant with my 4th, we wanted something different. We had kind of a bad experience with baby number 3. So with baby number 4, we wanted something different. And I ran into a lady that teaches Bradley childbirth classes. We took her classes, and then we ended up going with the birth center that's here local. And they do home birth and births at the birth center. So we opted for a home birth. And I was a little bit kind of scared to be kind of farther away from the hospital. So that's why we opted for home, which is kind of silly, but our house was closer to the hospital. So that was our first experience. And it went great. It was by far my best birth experience ever. It was laid back. It was really quiet. It was in my own home environment, so I felt comfortable. I didn't feel like I had to perform for anybody. This is Levi, by the way.
Hi, cutie.
Anyway, so let's see. My mom was there helping, but she ended up having to go get my sister, and my baby was born during the half an hour span of time that she
right.
but it was just, she was born in my bedroom, and my husband was there, and we had the midwife and midwife assistant, and she ended up coming out so fast that the assistant hollered to the midwife who was in my living room, "You better run, this baby's coming." She's like, "Hold on, let me get my gloves," and my husband reached out his hands and caught the baby. So it was, but it was good. I mean, he caught all of our other kids, so it wasn't anything scary for him, but it was just, I don't know, it was just nice to be in my home and doing things naturally the way that our bodies were intended to do them. So
yeah.
And then I had 3 more after that were in the hospital pre-me, so
And
I only got 1 home.
well, and that's one thing that I really wanted to make sure and talk about. There are situations where a home birth is not appropriate. I have delivered so many babies here on our farm that usually the mother would survive. Usually with medical attention, the mother would survive as kind of an afterthought type of a thing. But if there was ever a complication where there was a death, it would usually be the baby here on the farm, because a lot of times there can be things internally happening that having someone on the outside who's thinking clearly. When you're in labor, you're not necessarily terribly cognitive. You're really focused on what's happening in your body. And so I know that there are people out there that like unassisted labors or not unassisted births, and not to be monitored and not to be checked on and things like that. And while I think that that is definitely a personal choice, as far as my experience with birth, I do believe that having someone who is experienced in birthing and that can do your fetal monitoring and can check your urine levels, and I do think that having those early warning systems, like I went to Agape Birthing Center. Did you do Agape?
Yeah, there's Staylaw now. They changed
Yeah.
the name. But yeah.
And so is that Valerie and Kathy? Yeah. So they were there for my second delivery. And with both of my deliveries, we had minor complications that because they were trained at those certain points and they had been monitoring so carefully. For instance, the reason they monitor the baby's heartbeat for so many months before you have your baby is so that when the baby's in distress, they can see that compared to what their normal heart rate was.
Yeah, they get used to what it's supposed to be normally.
Yeah, what is it normally? And so if the baby does become distressed, they have enough time to either get you to a hospital or to intervene in a way that they can intervene. For instance, I had a little bit of preeclampsia with my first baby with Paige, and that can be a big complication if it gets too far. But because they were monitoring urine protein in my urine, they caught it when I still was a month away from delivery, and so I was able to up my protein and decrease my stress so that I was still able to have a home birth. And with Kaya, they had been monitoring her heart rate level, and so just before Kaya was born, they figured out that the cord was wrapped around her neck, and they were able to tell me, "No, I know you don't want to push right now, but you're just going to push this baby out because she's got a cord around her neck, so do it now." Or else type of a situation. Sometimes as a laboring woman, to have another woman mother you and boss you at those important junctions will save your baby's life, and it can also save your life. Because no matter how many babies you've had, when you go into that zone and you're having a baby, you need somebody on the outside who can slap you and say, "No, you're pushing now," type of a thing.
Or don't push.
Or don't push.
Move or do something different. Yeah, it's really important. Someone that knows.
Or go to the hospital. They know when to say, "Okay, no, we're just going to the hospital now. I know you wanted a home birth, honey. We're getting in the car, and I love you. Move." So what got you interested in being a midwife, and what is your educational process? How much does it cost? Are you planning on going into it and being a midwife, or maybe a doula? What are your plans?
Let's start out with why I got into it in the beginning, and that's really a loaded question. It takes time to explain. So like I said, we had a pretty negative experience with my third baby when he was born. The birth itself was really, really good. I don't remember much of it because I have PTSD from that birth experience, because after he was born, I had the epidural, so I was still numb from, here down, and he started choking on mucus that they get, because babies are phlegmy when they're born. And I couldn't find his bulb aspirator. and there was no nurses in there with us because it was after, during that whole bonding time that they give you. So his lips start turning blue, right? He's coughing on it. And my husband goes out to get another one from the nurse's station. And when he went out and the door shut, something inside the handle broke. And he couldn't get back in. And I was numb. I mean, I could not get off of the bed to go open the door. And so I got on the phone with the nurse's station. I'm talking to them right outside my door, and they're asking, is everything okay? And I ended up pulling the straw out of the mug that they give you at the hospital, and I had to suction my baby right there. It was awful. It was the worst experience ever. And they had called maintenance, and maintenance said, oh, we'll be there in about an hour. And we're like, we don't have an hour. So while that's going on, my husband's panicking on the other side of the door, trying to think, how am I going to tear through this wall? Because they can't go through the door. And he ended up using a Kroger card out of his wallet and carding the door to get in. And this all happened in a matter of maybe 2 minutes. And it seems like it stretched for an hour. It was awful. And even now, I get goosebumps talking about it because it was so scary. And I want to say not all hospital births are like that. And the chances of a door breaking in that situation are astronomical of ever happening again. But at the same time, I wanted to be able to get up and walk 10 feet to a door to save my baby's life if I needed to.
Yeah.
And that's what really started us on the journey. We got pregnant again with baby number 4, and we were still with the same practice. But I just had that uneasy feeling of, this is not what I want. This is uncomfortable to me. I don't want anything scary ever to happen again. I want to be able to get up and move. So we talked to them. They have a midwife at their practice also, and I was seeing her for a while, and then she moved. She moved right when I was like 32 weeks. And so I went searching for someone else, and I was also taking the Bradley classes. Sorry. Just a second. Baby. In just a minute. I was taking the Bradley classes with Valerie Hall that you mentioned earlier, and so she was a student at the birth center. And so my husband and I looked into the birth center and decided that that's the route we wanted to go. So yeah, we had our home birth that I mentioned. I also became a WIC peer counselor for their breastfeeding, and then I became a doula. I did it.
And do we want to explain what a doula is real quick? Because doulas are not a midwife. There's something different. So do you want to explain to people what a doula is?
I have a fly, sorry. So a doula is somebody who goes in to help support the mom during labor. So she'll do comfort measures. They're knowledgeable as far as like positions that can help with different situations, things that help the mom relax, counter pressure, things like that. But they don't do vitals. They don't monitor the baby. They don't actually deliver the baby. They're just there for mom.
Well, and they can run interference with the hospital. If you have a hospital birth, they can come in and run interference and say, when, because you're a little out of your head when you're actually going through the contractions, and you can forget what it is that you care about. And it's hard for you to focus on those details while you're in the middle of labor. And so they're there to remember the details that you wanted. For instance, no, she said she didn't want an epidural. No, she said she wanted this. She said she wanted a bathtub labor. This is where she said she wanted to labor. I know you don't want her to, but this is what she wants, and this is what we're going to enforce, because you had our birth plan before we came here. You agreed that we could go by our birth plan, and we're, barring there being like a life-threatening situation, we're going to follow her birth plan, and I'm here to make sure you do it.
Yeah. Well, and I can also give advice too. I mean, if something were to come up and there was a situation that, say a cesarean was being talked about. Yeah. They have enough knowledge to be able to talk to the parents in private and say, this is the reason why the doctor is suggesting that, and kind of help them make more of an informed decision instead of getting scared into a unnecessary. Because sometimes they are necessary. Yeah, sometimes they are very necessary. And at other times it's about the doctor's convenience. I do know that there have been times with friends of mine that they have gone in and the mother was progressing slowly. The doctor was getting impatient. He had something else he needed to do. And if he was going to be the one to deliver the baby, he was going to induce her. When really she just needed to labor for 3 or 4 more days because she wasn't dilated. Her membranes were still intact. She was just laboring slowly. And so those are situations where, having a doula there, somebody that understands
understands exactly what the doctor's saying, and really whether it's a convenience thing or a necessary thing. Because there's more and more research now that shows that having a vaginal birth introduces the good bacteria into the baby's system, and also compresses the baby when they're born in such a way that their lungs work better. Everything about this baby's going to work better if they have a vaginal birth. And so if it's possible, and that is what the mother wants, having, dad is just there to hold her hand and get yelled at, having the doula there as another woman who really knows what she's talking about just kind of buffers your birth. It gives you that extra buffer, because we do have a tendency to get cranky with our husbands at this juncture.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes the doula is good for the husband too, because if they get into a situation where their wife is crying or making noises that sound like she's hurting really bad, and sometimes that's really hard for the dad too. So a doula is really helpful.
Yeah.
To be able to reassure dad too. Hey, Carrie. We have helpers.
Right. Poor little guy.
Running downstairs. Hey, everybody. He just woke up from a nap, so he's a little cranky.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was a doula for 4 years, and then after that, I decided that I wanted to be on the other end. I wanted to be doing the vitals and helping birth the baby, catching baby and helping mom in that aspect. So I started with Valerie. Valerie actually has her own practice now. She's at Generations Home Birth.
Uh-huh.
And then after a while, I started working at the birth center. And I did that for about a year, and then I had a baby, so I'm kind of on break.
Right.
He doesn't like it down
And so what does that involve when you're getting your education in this? You have a certain education you get as a doula, but then you have a much more extensive, almost like a registered nurse type education when you actually become a midwife. So what are the costs? How long is it going to take you? And what is kind of the process that you go through there?
So I'm going through a program. Hold on just a second.
No, you're good.
He's like, Mom, not fair. Okay. So I'm going through a program called Mercy in Action. And they do have a campus in Boise, but I'm doing their distance program.
Okay.
So I don't have to leave my family to go to Boise,
Okay.
Goodness. He says, Mom, that is not what I wanted. Sorry.
Oh.
Okay, so I do their classes online. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
You can, okay. Oh gosh.
It's real life. It's real life.
It is real life. It's good for people to see that.
Right?
Do you want some milk or no? No. He hasn't been feeling good either, so
It makes it laugh.
yeah, which is part of the reason why I'm not at your house right now.
Right? Well, and if it's too rough, we can just do this as a part 2. If you want to, we can just do it again on next Friday and just do it as a part 2 if this is too hard for him right now.
Well, I think he'll be okay once he decides to actually settle down.
Right.
Okay. All right. So, talking about education, right?
Right.
I'm doing their distance program, which is 18 modules, and it goes through everything from fertilization through, pregnancy, birth, normal. What happens for a normal birth? Hey, what's up, Barbara? Hey. All right. What happens for normal births? What happens for unexpected, things, and how to identify those problems too. So it takes. You can technically get it done in about 18 months. Choosing to take. Sorry, somebody's calling me. I'm on my phone because it's the only camera I have. Somebody was calling.
Right.
Oh goodness. What's up, sweetie?
Like it said man yeti toki toki.
I'll start when I'm done.
I think I know how to do.
We have homeschooling going on at the same time too.
All right. I understand.
All right.
That's the only thing I have to do.
Do we want to just do it as a part 2 and we can do it again on next Friday? Because I think we still gave them a lot of information.
We might need to do the 2-part.
Yeah, let's do that. So next time, everybody, next time we will come back and we'll talk about the education. The middle one is feeling a little better for a little while. But go check out Clarissa's channel. And we'll talk to you later.
I can't hear you.